So go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Ben Marshall, former head keeper of the aviary at the City Zoo.
Tell us who you are.
My name's Robin Sparrow, and I am a bird enthusiast.
So by bird enthusiast,
Bird watcher.
bird watcher.
The more scientific term.
Okay, cool. So you've been doing this for how long?
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, ever since I was 10. So my dad introduced me to it, and his father introduced it to him, and just a long lineage of just bird watching.
So could you tell us who you are?
I'm Age Naves, Regional Director.
So you've come here today to put to rest this theory that birds are not real, and that any sort of involvement from the government is non-existent. Am I correct in assuming that?
You're correct, yeah. It's something of a joke around me and the guys at the office, you know. It's just one of those, on a Pizzagate level, just kind of a comical theory, you know.
Yeah, I would have considered myself a bird enthusiast. You know, I named him Chico. You know, Buddy. You know, Beak. I just called one Beak. You know, I'm not too creative.
Would you like to tell us what happened?
Yeah, so worst day of my life probably. You know, my partner calls out sick. I say I can cover it by myself. So I go to the aviary by myself. Got these big buckets of food with me. I'm feeding all the different kinds of birds we got. And all of a sudden these pigeons from outside, they start swarming, you know? And they start chirping at me. And I think that's weird. But then all the birds in the aviary, they start chirping at me too. Back and forth and back and forth. And I think, oh, something's wrong here. And suddenly all the birds, they start like circling me, right? And I think, oh, this is it. You know, that's game over. Death by birds. My boss calls me in the morning, all mad. What the hell did you do? We're missing birds. We got birds flying all over the city. I tell him my story, and he thinks I'm nuts, you know? He thinks I'm crazy. Word gets around the zoo. People think I've lost it. They start calling me names. Start calling me bird brain. Start calling me chicken shit. It's humiliating. And I had to leave, you know? Nobody took me seriously anymore.
Is that when you realized that birds actually aren't real?
It was in that moment. I knew there's something unnatural about birds. They are not a creation of God, you know? They're a creation of something much more sinister.
If you even, okay, I'll start from the beginning. If we look at an example, you think of a plane, which is modeled after birds, what they say.
Okay.
But I'm thinking that maybe the birds are modeled after the plane.
So how do you mean that birds are modeled after airplanes?
Well, if you think about it, like how much fuel is required for a plane to get up off the ground? A ton. Like millions of gallons used every day.
Right.
And then you think of how much a bird needs to get off the ground. Does that make sense? Like, birds are fueled by like nuts and berries. And then you have planes that are fueled by gasoline. You're telling me that birds can get up off the ground fueled by nuts and berries?
So how anatomically, how do you think, or how do they operate?
We're talking about birds?
Birds, yes. Okay. Who do you think's to blame or is responsible for these bionicle birds?
The United States government, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe the cabal.
Why do you think they would create these?
They gotta find different ways to keep us in line, right? You know? Those of us who figure out what they're up to. Ways to keep us down. Because, you know, who's gonna believe that birds aren't real? You know? B is for bird when you learn the alphabet, right?
From the beginning of our lives, we're showed positive, like, reinforcement of birds. I mean, think about it. As soon as you're 4, you're watching Sesame Street. You got Big Bird.
Right.
A positive representation of birds. I don't even think he's a bird.
Now I can't stand the sight of him. I don't go outside. I live in my car. I stay in my car because they can't hurt me there, you know? And I know they know I live there. You know, I wake up, I get out of my back seat, bird shit all over my car. Covered. I can't park my car in one place anymore. I have to move. I'm like a nomad. So they know, hit him where it hurts. His home. My 2000 Buick LeSabre Tour Edition.
And you said that requires nuts and berries. So you have to think they have to digest it. So what actually comes out of them if it's not nuts and berries?
That's the thing. They're not really nuts and berries. They're actually fuel that look like nuts and berries.
Okay.
And when they poop, they're expelling fuel, like battery acid.
Battery acid.
So it's not biological. I would know, I've tasted it.
You would. Okay. All right.
All of a sudden, you're the crazy one, right? No one believes you. So,
There's got to be somebody that believes you. Are you doing anything to help spread the word?
yeah, I've become a respected moderator on a lot of subreddits, a lot of places on 4chan to spread awareness.
So Ben, what kind of birds do you think are real, and what kind of birds do you think are confiscated by the government and used to create these drones?
It's an interesting question, you know, because there's essentially two schools of thought on this, right? There's the school of thought that there's only pigeons as drones, security drones, and that all the other birds are naturally occurring. I don't buy that. I'm of a little bit of a different train of thought. I think that pigeons are entirely artificial. There's no such thing as a naturally occurring pigeon. Why can they live anywhere? That makes no sense. But I think that after they saw the effectiveness of the pigeon surveillance system, the PSS as we call it in the Birds Aren't Real community, after they saw the success of the PSS, they manufactured more sophisticated surveillance birds. Look at owls, for example. They got longer. They can see farther. They can see at night. You know, they'd be all over that. They'd develop owl surveillance drones. You know.
Yeah, almost like night vision with owls.
Yeah. And I'll spit in the face of the American people right now. Bald eagles. They're at least 50% of all living bald eagles are surveillance drones, because we, as the beautiful country that is America, we trust bald eagles, right? So of course, hide some of the highest tech in our national
Well,
animal.
of course, and it's an endangered species, so everyone's going to protect them.
Exactly.
Obviously.
It only makes sense. I accuse the government of many things, but being dumb is not one of them.
So what other involvement do you think that the government has involved with this? Do you think it could relate to 5G? Could it relate to COVID?
So I've been theorizing this for a while. 5G is not actually what they say it is. So there's two theories, and then there's a third theory that we don't talk about enough. The first theory is that 5G is for Wi-Fi. The second theory is that 5G causes cancer, and that its intention is to kill people. And the third theory, the one that I have found, is that they are placing up portable bird chargers.
So, Mr. Sparrow, when did you realize that birds aren't real?
Not that long ago, maybe like 5 months ago. I was looking at the power lines and how birds are always sitting on them, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, we can't even touch them. Like, that's a rule, right? I'm pretty sure it's a law. I don't know. But they sit on these power lines and they just sit there all day, just, watching us. And what I really think they're doing is recharging. Getting all that energy through their system. The circuitry goes through their hollow bones. I mean, can you explain why birds sit on power lines?
I cannot. I would even begin to question the reality of squirrels in that sense.
No, squirrels are real.
Okay. Are they advancing their means? Does this mean that they could be producing mass numbers to join the already large force of birds?
Yes, I feel like we've been seeing a shortage of birds lately because they're dying. Their battery life is running out. And the reason this whole pandemic is a thing in the first place is just make sure we're not out there when they're implementing all the new birds. Suddenly we go back outside and suddenly there's like 50 more birds than normal. I don't know if you're counting, but you would notice if you were.
Okay. So let's hear your side of the story, Mr. CIA agent.
I mean, birds are beautiful machines, creatures that they've been around my entire life. They've been harmless. They've been beautiful, beautiful creatures.
I'll just cut straight to the point. When did you guys get involved with birds?
I'm not quite sure of the question. We're not involved with the birds.
You're not involved with birds. Okay. So it's not preposterous of me to believe that the government has any sort of involvement in taking birds and creating security drones out of them.
I would call that pretty preposterous, actually.
Well, we have concrete evidence that the excretions of birds are in fact battery acid. We have seen charging stations such as power lines for these birds.
That's a new one.
Is it?
Yeah,
Is it really?
I haven't heard that one. The battery acid one, that one's pretty funny. I mean, I've had bird shit on my car before. I've smelled it.
So I'm only peeking at the board that you must have left for obvious reasons. So there seems to be birds on your board.
That's a doodle or something, you know.
Okay.
We don't have a lot to do around here all the time.
So there's nothing to do with surveilling from birds or anything like that.
Absolutely not. And
No.
actually, come to think of it, it's about my lunchtime, so
Is it?
it's been a
Okay.
pleasure. But
Can't ask any more questions.
no more questions.
Okay. Could we do a follow up maybe?
You can contact my representative.
Okay. We'll do that.
A lot's changed in the past 5 months. It's been kind of a downward spiral. I'm talking about my love for birds, not my life. I'm very happy.
Very happy. Love life going well.
I have a dog.
How's your dating life going?
I've been completely and entirely single since the incident, as I call it. I would consider those separate, not correlated, you know?
You said since the incident, was there someone you were romantically involved in before the incident?
Yeah, a girlfriend of 4 years. We lived together.
Yeah.
She can't stand me. She thinks I'm nuts. She thinks all the people I talk to online are weird. But you know what? I don't want to be with someone who doesn't believe the truth.
Yeah.
You know?
She's just one of those sheeple that you mentioned.
A cog in the machine, in the bird machine.